Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps. Here's your host, Jacob Wells.
All right, welcome to Latte with a Lawyer. I'm here with Andrew Finkelstein from Finkelstein and Partners, and I'm really excited because we have a great show for you today. Here's our guest, Andrew Finkelstein. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Again, thanks so much for spending some of your time with us. Before we get into the episode, can you just give us a bit of an overview for our viewers about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a personal injury lawyer who practices primarily in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. I'm actually the managing partner of 5 different law firms: Finkelstein and Partners, Jacoby and Myers, Fine, Olin and Anderman, Finkelstein, Blankenship, Frey Pearson and Garber, and also Diller Law. And may sound a little shocking. You'd never hear of a lawyer being a managing partner of one firm. I'm of 5, and I'm able to do all of that because of our technology and great relationships with the lawyers that I work with. We actually operate as one large law firm with 5 different brands. Each of the entities has its own silo that it practices in, and we cross-refer cases that are appropriate.
Wow, that's 5 law firms. That's pretty amazing. How do you manage to do all that? I know you said technology, but how do you focus on all that at once, and what does your day look like?
So there's no typical day, right?
Yeah.
But how do we focus on it? We have lots of central metrics that I follow, and we are 100% paperless, and our proprietary software system really watches a lot of what goes on and highlights when things need to be addressed, and make sure we move our files as expeditiously as possible for our clients, and computer takes care of a lot of that.
Amazing.
Or
Wow.
version.
Tremendous. And
As an example, uh, every document that comes into the office gets scanned in, and when it gets scanned into the particular file, it's digitized. It then can be distributed to multiple people, and depending on the type of document it is, together with the whether it's a positive medical record, as an example, or negative medical record, there's a whole different distribution channel as to who it would go to. And when a positive record comes in, it'll get sent to more people, which will then will take different action based on those documents that are coming in.
wow. So were you able to handle managing all 5 law firms before you had this technology, or that wasn't even doable?
That's why I'm able to.
Wow.
The
So
technology
yeah,
came first.
gotcha.
So the technology came first, and in 1999, Gail Koff, who was the managing partner of Jacoby Myers at the time, had not invested in technology. I mean, we've been paperless since '95,
Mhm.
which is most firms didn't were struggling with fax machines, let alone being paperless. And she needed to materially upgrade her technology, and was faced with a simple choice: go out and try and find all the case management systems that are in the marketplace now didn't exist back then. There were a few, and they were pretty rudimentary, and gave her an opportunity where we would join forces, bring her entire operation into my system, and I would manage it the same way I managed my practice. And that was successful. And another lawyer approached me, and that's the gradual evolution.
Great. So, when you first got into the law business, can you just go into a little bit, first of all, how you got interested in this field and what it was like back in the beginning, as opposed to how things are done now?
I could handle the first part of that question pretty easily. The second part is a little broad. So the first part,
Mm,
how did I get involved? Had a I went to undergraduate at Syracuse University in the business program. I graduated with a dual degree in finance and in marketing. I then joined a brokerage house and was not enamored with the work that was being done there. So after working there for a year, decided to go to law school. After graduating law school, this firm was founded by my dad in 1959. I wasn't planning on practicing initially. I joined him uh, out of law school because I knew I could leave him easily without. It was full disclosure. I'm joining you. I was already married because I'm going to be leaving,
mhm,
and I could say that, and that was not a problem. And
mhm,
once I joined the firm, it was one office, one location. I quickly realized I could accomplish my professional objectives of building a business right there. So after trying cases for about 5 years, or yeah, after about 5 years of trying cases, going from one to the next, I went and got an MBA while also still practicing, and then um, started growing the firm geographically as well as through different organizations.
something that,
And your second part of your question was, what's the difference in the practice of law now versus um, when I first started?
mhm.
You know, that's such a broad question. If you're asking me from a client's perspective, from a practicing lawyer's
More
perspective, it's
so like the workflow without the technology, what that was like back in the day.
well, so when you say back in the day, we at the time in late '80s, early '90s, there was no dedicated law firm technology. So what we did is we purchased a mainframe computer, an AS400 from IBM, which was a very big machine. Hired some programmers and programmed it to do what we wanted the system to do, and we're still investing in that same technology all these years later. And at one point in time, we said we already captured probably, there are no true statistics on it, but I would say 60 to 70% of the catastrophic injuries in the area, physical area that we practiced. And
Hmm.
really the only way to grow the business was to grow geographically. And the simple strategic decision had to be made. Are we going to replicate our systems remotely, or are we going to invest and do everything centrally and just deliver the work product remotely? And that's what we chose. So we built a system understanding that everything would the work would be done centrally, and in the other geographic areas would really be attorneys to service our clients.
Hmm.
So in order to accomplish that, we had to first become paperless, and then have an internal communication process and everything. I mean, it's not too crazy to say we had Twitter before Twitter existed, but only in our internal case management system. We had email before email really existed, because we're communicating remotely through
Hmm.
our technology.
You're
So
pretty, yeah.
yeah,
I was just gonna.
what's the difference now?
Hmm.
Now, a lot of what we were able to create in a proprietary fashion can be purchased in a app, You can
Hmm.
replicate pretty much everything that we've done, but the challenge is there's not one app that does everything, so you have to integrate all of those various apps. But the the actual work that we do can be replicated, whereas before it could not.
Right. I was going to say you're a pretty forward-thinking guy when it comes to the way you approach your business. Was there anybody that wasn't on board? Was there any hesitation when you first transitioned over?
Uh, if they were, they didn't stay.
Gotcha. Um, the other
It's
thing,
simple. It's
yeah,
simple. When the boat is going left, everybody's going left. If you choose to
right,
go right, that's okay, but you're not going to be on the boat.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, it's something that I found interesting, and it's been coming up with other people that I've been speaking to is the business side of running a law firm. So having your business background must have been an advantage. What role do you like? What do you think is important in terms of running the business that a lot of lawyers don't really pay attention to, that don't have that business background, that don't have that MBA?
uh, service quality. They don't prioritize the, or frankly, I don't think they understand what the definition of a service quality model even is. When you're delivering an intangible, what the consumer, and in our case, I'm using the broad term consumer, but really client perceives as high quality. And if you don't understand that, then you can't deliver it. So
Mhm.
I think uh, a lawyer's internal definition of high quality service and a client's definition of high quality service are oftentimes two different definitions. And if you're not operating on what constitutes high quality service, you're going to be misaligned with your own clients. So a lot of lawyers end up frustrating their own clients because they don't spend enough time um, defining what their service model is for their own client. And their client creates their own expectations and they don't deliver on those expectations.
So how do you ensure that you create a client-centric business?
Creating policies and procedures that require it. I have a clear culture statement that centralizes that. And I not only just say it, you have to live it. Uh,
Hmm.
that those are easy words. And then depending on what your culture is, you have to test it. So we test it all the time. And the way we test it is by regularly conducting client surveys. And in the client surveys, we're asking specific questions about our own culture. We don't use the term culture within our survey system, but our culture is to treat our clients, colleagues, and our community with caring, compassion, and concern. So we'll ask our clients, did this particular person at this particular encounter treat you with caring, compassion, and concern? And if they come back and say no, that person is not a culture carrier in this organization, and we either have to adjust their attitude or make the appropriate changes.
Hmm. So focusing on the clients, I'm sure you have a lot of stories of cases that were really exciting that you worked on. I think one of the things that makes law interesting is that you're really working with people and helping these people who are down and out and need a lot of help. Is there anything that comes to mind, an exciting, meaningful case that you worked on?
I've handled thousands of
Yeah.
cases. I've delivered millions of dollars to individuals. So there's a long list of them.
Hmm.
But at the end, it's the same story, which is delivering some type of closure for the client. It's not as much about money as it is about justice.
Hmm. Gotcha. Um, is there any book or podcast that you recommend to aspiring lawyers that want to educate themselves? Anything you think that's valuable?
I would tell you read everything you can. I'm
Mhm.
constantly reading different books still, in lots of different fields. I would um, strongly encourage you to read a book. I don't remember the author, but it's called True Professionalism. Right? It's about the legal industry on what it means to be a true professional. It's a good book, good
Great,
foundational.
great. Um,
Um,
is there anything else besides that book that you would advise anybody who's an aspiring lawyer?
just consume as much as you can.
Hmm.
Everything, uh, different books speak to different people in different ways. It's I'm not a believer that this book is the quote unquote Bible. You have to read it because this is called the practice of law, not the perfection of law, and it's
Hmm.
requires constant practice. So, um, it's uh, the books will go from management type books, culture related books, to practice specific books from I'm a trial lawyer, trial strategies and things of that nature, to uh, organizational behavior. If you have a larger organization, you have to understand organizational behavior. Um, you know, so there's no shortage of knowledge that is out there in other books or podcasts. And I just say consume as much as you can.
Right, especially now it's at your fingertips, so
Right.
it's a great time.
Yeah,
And then
a great example is applying where there a lot of study has occurred and applying it to your own practice, like in behavioral economics. And
mhm.
if you negotiate at all, which most lawyers do, you ought to become a student of behavioral economics. And there are lots of great books on behavioral economics.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that one before. That's interesting advice. Um, is there a direction that you think the business is going in? You know, our show is sponsored by Motion Track, which is a technology company. So where do you think the future of the legal industry is
From what perspective?
in
Like,
terms of AI, any other technology that can help accelerate and make the business more efficient?
oh, yeah, well, I mean, technology is going to materially change uh, the practice of law if the regulators allow for this gilded profession to be permeated by some technology investment, which should happen. And it's starting to happen. And that technology and a lot of lawyers are fearful of it
Hmm.
because they feel it'll replace them as an attorney, and to some extent, it will. It will replace the attorney who hasn't invested in their own skill set to become specialized in a niche area. And if you engage in activities that are easily replicable, they're replaceable. So you want to make sure you specialize in whatever field you want to practice in. But um, technology is definitely going to continue to improve our ability to practice, not replace our ability to practice, but it will replace those who engage in um, consistent, uh, um, uh, I'll just define it, lower level activities.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also, I think, um, you were talking about understanding people's behavior as well as the business side. And there's just various other things that you need to understand to be a good lawyer, it seems. And I was just curious, going off of the behavioral side of things, um, what is the way that you approach a focus group? I know now, people have been using virtual focus groups. How do you approach that, and what do you look for when selecting a jury?
Well, so with focus groups, there's all different types of focus groups, and it's understanding what your purpose of that focus group is. The traditional focus group that lawyers may think about is an adversarial based focus group that you're trying to win. I don't think there's much value in such a focus group because all that does is make the lawyer feel good if they win, but it doesn't give the answer as to why. And that's what the value of a focus group is. You want to know the why, not the outcome. So why does somebody feel one party is responsible for an event? Why and how was it preventable, and when, and what was the earliest time? So to discover those things, you can't do it from an adversarial vantage point, but an information gathering vantage point. So if you're going to look for information that answers the why, you have to structure your focus group a bit differently. And you have to structure it in a way that promotes people uh, and creates an environment for them to say why they feel a particular way. You're not in using a focus group to persuade. You're using the information that you get from a focus group to persuade a subsequent group.
Well said. Very interesting. Yeah, I find it fascinating the way that you approach the focus groups and understanding people's behavior. I think a lot of people don't realize there's such a broad variety of things that go on within preparing for a case.
I'll
So I
give
think
you a
it's really
simple example. I'll give you a simple example. If I say the word banana, right, there's not too much dispute what a banana is, because that word banana is code for a yellow fruit that's encased by a membrane or whatever, the peel or whatever you
yeah.
would call it. And I don't have to worry too much when I stand up in front of a jury and say the word banana, because I know just what's on everybody's mind.
Hmm.
But I'm not too sure exactly what's on people's mind if I say slumlord, or if I say landlord, or if I say truck, or if I say tractor trailer, or if I say school teacher, or if I say
Hmm.
gym coach. Though each one of those words, although they may have a commonality in what they trigger a different emotional response depending on who the individual is. And I better know what that is before I go and stand up in front of a jury. So if I'm looking to frame a particular party negatively or positively, I better know if I want to call them as a landlord or uh, uh, I wouldn't use the word slumlord, but something comparable,
Right.
or you know, um, or as simple as a teacher or a gym coach, right?
Do you
So
think that most lawyers are approaching things in this manner and doing this research to make sure that every single word is concise and being used efficiently? And like you were explaining,
no, I know they're not.
it's crazy. It seems like a no-brainer. No.
Look, it's expensive and it's time consuming,
Hmm.
right? And many lawyers approach a matter that it's going to settle anyway, so why invest the time? And if that's what the attitude is and the approach is, then it's not worth it, because you're ultimately going to take the last dollar, whatever's offered. But if that's not what your attitude approach is, which is my office, and we're preparing cases to try, not preparing them to settle, you approach it differently. So
Have
it's
Yeah.
When you say most lawyers, and that's not a bad thing if you're taking a case and you're ultimately going to settle it. It's just a different philosophy as to what our purpose is.
Do you think that the advent of the Zoom focus group recently has affected that, and people have been more on board since it's been more cost effective? And has that been a positive all around?
Generally, generally. But the challenge is people doing it the right way,
Hmm.
right?
What?
It's as damaging to do a focus group the wrong way as it is to not do a focus group at all.
Mhm.
If the information that you're getting and building your case around was solicited in an improper way that manipulated what people are going to say just to satisfy the person who was handling the case. For as an example, you have a target defendant that you really want to hold in. So if all you do to a focus group is talk about just that target defendant without talking about the totality of what everybody else did, you're going to get just what you're looking for, which is everybody is going to only talk about the target defendant because human behavior is such we only see that which we are shown. And if
Mhm.
you're only going to show information as relates to one party, they're only going to talk about that one party. So
Right.
if then you could be deceiving yourself that the outcome of the focus group, in fact, was positive when you're getting bad data and basing decision on bad data. The when I run a focus group is I want to lose. I don't want to hear all the ways I lose,
Yeah, of
because once I
course.
hear
Yeah.
all the ways that I lose, I can fix it and figure out the right ways to win, knowing those bad things.
So do you
Right?
think there's some challenges with the Zoom focus group and some information that is lacking there?
No, I think it's all about the moderator and how it's presented.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. I found the conversation really interesting. And for anybody that wants to connect with you or learn a little bit more, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Sure, just shoot me an email, a Finkelstein, Finkelstein at lawampm.com.
Amazing. Well, this has been Jacob Wells for Latte with Lawyers. I want to thank Andrew Finkelstein of Finkelstein and Partners for joining us today. And thanks to our sponsor, Motion Track without a K, that uses artificial intelligence and mobile app audiences to economically and quickly gather focus group research and data for mediations. So thanks so much and have a great day.